Hey!
Hello, good evening, Miss Iris. Always fun to see you.
Yes, good to
Yay,
see
yay.
you too.
You're on the road. You're on the road this week.
I am on the road. I'm in my hotel room. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, out near the
Very good.
airport. Have a conference I'm attending, and so it was funny because my supervisor said, "Iris, do you want to go out to eat?" And I said, "We can go out to eat, but I got to get back."
I got my fan base to meet. Hi,
Yes.
Deborah.
Hey, Deborah.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So, welcome everyone. We're going to talk for a couple of minutes and let other wonderful people sign in, like our fan favorites, Deborah, and anybody else that is a regular. Welcome to the show.
Let us know you're
And
here.
we are Eyes of Indigo. My name is Margot Ross Sears. That is Iris Carter. Yay! You can learn more about Iris Carter at iriscarter.com. You can learn more
How
about
easy
me
can it
and
be?
how easy can it be. Mine's a little harder. It's indigoanswers.com. Or you can see a lot of my work on beachpeopleweddings.com as well. And my spiritual group I started, network.the-light.net. Now, let's see. If you want to learn, new people, welcome to the show. If you want to learn more about where Iris and I sort of come from, where our credentials are, please feel free to go back to the very first episode of this podcast. We call it the prequel. And you can, on YouTube is the easiest way to see it, but you can also see it on our Facebook page. And you can see that Iris is a book author. And recently published, which is a lot of fun. And Iris, I understand that you were recently invited by Janet Hosmer to speak about your topic of your book about ghosts at
Yeah,
one of her events. Yeah,
yeah. So
in
I'm gonna have to work
Myrtle
that out.
Beach.
Speaking of Janet, let's is this one no,
Yeah.
yeah, this one's still
Yes.
coming up. Okay, make sure I'm like so off kilter here. Uh yeah, this is Janet's doing an empowerment day and she's gonna be doing it once a month for the next few months anyway. And the next one is Saturday, November 6th from 8 to 5 and um, at different sessions there's different fees for different things and if oh crud she told me where to I can't remember now tell
Well,
where do they contact
the contact information is on the flyer. So if you're interested in the first class, there's a phone number and an email. If you're interested in empowering within or empower your soul or crystals 101, you can see the speaker's name, what they talk about, and their time slot on the left and their contact information for each person. And you
got
can
it
sign up and you can sign out that Sacred Spaces for Deathing. Kathy Andrews has been on this podcast as well just a couple of weeks ago. And the last one, Energy Healing 101. So feel free to go to Myrtle Beach and at the Marriott Courtyard and enjoy fascinating people. We know a lot of these people. And Iris has, I've been invited to for the December gathering. And Iris was also invited to present as well. So that'll be fun.
yeah so I definitely gotta work the details out on that
Logistics.
and
Yeah.
if anybody wants a copy of that form doesn't she have a Facebook page
Yes, it's called Energy Wellness. Energy Wellness.
Energy Wellness.
And Janet.
Or email me, Iris, at iriscarter.com and send me Janet's thing.
Yeah,
I'll send you the copy of what I just showed up there.
of
So
her
we've got
empowerment day. Yeah.
Angela Kreitzer with us. Welcome. And
Yay.
Lisa, hey, how are you?
Very cool. Happy Maybon to you too, sweetie. Exciting times. They are shifting and a changing. And personal information, congratulations to Angela Kreitzer. She recently got a fascinating opportunity offered to her. And it's not my place to make all those announcements except for to say congratulations. It's exciting.
Changes are
Exciting.
coming.
Changes are coming, and Iris and I are canoodling with the same bunch of fascinating people she is. So yeah, lots of good things coming that way. Shifting the world, healing the world, changing the world, all that good stuff. It's all on those same metaphysical leadership type lines. So that's good news too. So you can find us. You've got some from each side, Facebook and on YouTube. And we tend to repeat what you post and say, or put information and read it out loud on the screen, so that people on the other platform, YouTube people, can hear and see what Facebook people have commented, and vice versa. And Angela says wonderful things, and Lisa says congratulations, and in the comment section for us. And cool, that's the next thing I wanted to bring up is during any show and all of our shows, we encourage our viewers to comment, ask us questions, make insights, tell us we're nuts.
Okay. Yeah,
Tell us a joke.
We can take it.
We can take it. Absolutely.
I'll just go home and cry later.
go out with my bottle with my box of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
Nah, we're old school thick skin. And humor is always welcome here if you haven't figured that out yet. So welcome to any newcomers that are out there. Please feel free to announce yourself by making a comment. Just say hi, say hello, let us know you're there. And if you see the show or need to see the show in the future, you certainly can. We record them all.
I just realized I didn't bring my bell, but I've got this. Oh, wait a minute. It's the wrong one.
That sounded like a roll of tape.
Yeah. Where is it? Wait a minute.
There you go. Party horn.
Yeah.
Angela says, thanks for all. It's the betterment of humanity. Very cool to be a part of the process with everyone. Yay! Oh, that's even better.
That's a Willem scream.
Yeah, that's a famous Willem scream. I love finding that in movies.
Yes.
You can find that in almost every major movie. I've found it where they distorted it or shortened it. I still found it.
Yeah, a guy recorded it. His last name was Willem. Years ago, he was falling off a horse or something and recorded it. And now movies use it everywhere. It's the most famous scream.
Oh!
Ah!
Once you learn the scream, you'll hear it everywhere you go. It's really funny. It's very, very popular. And we've got a new person, Brian Paul Barrett says, hello, ladies. He once worked at the Marriott at 16 in 91. There you go. That's a lot of information, Brian.
Wow.
He's naming names, baby. Brian, we're glad you're here. Thank you. I see you've got a little bit of the moon in your profile picture. Yeah. The moon is getting, I think it was full last night. Yeah. Things are happening on many, many levels, and we're happy for it. Yeah. Get it right up on that microphone, honey, because that's funny as all get out. That worked. That worked really good. Sounds agonizing.
The moon was full last night.
That sounds like a drunk werewolf now.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, so Brian's coming to us from Massachusetts. Angela says that's never going to get old. And I know Deborah. Sure? Are you sure? Deborah comes to us from Oregon. Angela is here in North Carolina with us as well. So we're getting a nice little spread of You know what, Lisa, I don't know where you're from. Lisa Klein. But if you feel like telling us, you can. So we're getting a nice spread.
Yeah.
But tonight's show and tonight's topic, Iris, can you fill us in a little bit?
This was interesting.
And how you came about it.
Yes. Well, my sister, who is in our audience, she sent me. She said, "I just saw this Twitter post and thought, and I'll show it to y'all in just a minute." She said, she said, "I know you like weird stuff, so here you go, enjoy." And oh man, I thought I dove down the rabbit hole, but then I shared it with Margot and I said, "You gotta check this out." Man, it was like hours later, she's coming out from under the stuff.
I went down the rabbit hole.
So
Quick like a boner.
yeah, so what I did with it, got her agreement. Yes, we're definitely going to talk about this. It is Gone in a Flash, is what I came up with on the title. And disappearances in national parks are mysterious, untracked, and frequent.
Mm-hmm.
Who or what is taking children? And we were just discussing it goes beyond children, of course. But I did find the picture with the little kid lost in the woods in there. So
yeah, that was creepy. Very well done. Well done.
Yes, and yes, Angela, we'll have to get Deborah in the area and y'all can meet. And Lisa lives in Charlotte now. I thought she was from around somewhere around here.
Yeah, she was originally South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Twitter.
And I'm Sunset Beach. Yeah, North Carolina.
Is that Reddit? No, that's Twitter. Yeah.
That's Twitter. And then
all right, which one am I hiding? Oh golly.
The blue one is Twitter, and the black one, that's Twitter.
Yeah. So this was the link that my sister sent me to start it off, and it was strange things happen in national parks. Thousands gone missing, maybe more. The government won't track it. No one really knows why. Could be experiments, could be energy. Watch Missing 411 on iTunes. It's wild. Well, 411 is also on YouTube. And there's two of them. It's Twitter. I can't do anything about the language, but we don't give a fuck anyway, right?
Right. Amen, sister.
And then the conversation goes deep and quick. And
that's just on Twitter. Once it goes to Reddit, people started writing for walls and walls telling their experiences of fucked up stuff happening to them or their boyfriends or their girlfriends or their parents or their uncles. But there's a lot of firsthand accounts of people experiencing really dicey supernatural stuff on federal land in national landmarks, such as like what you're seeing here.
Yeah, this was, they see these stories. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Services. I have some stories to tell.
Part 3, he did it in 5 parts, and it will enthrall you because he's actually a very good writer as well.
Yeah. And this stuff he ought to assemble and put in a book,
He did.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. It is a book. Duh.
It became a book. Yeah, eventually it did. And most of this information happened, just to give you a date, guys, this stuff happened recently. We're talking 2015, 2013, 2008, 2009, 2017. This stuff is recent. This is not like, I take that back. Some of the stories do go all the way back to 1950s.
Yeah.
All right. But they happen currently. And the other cool aspect is when you read through the Reddit and where people are from, these things happen in wildernesses and forests all over the world, not just U.S. federal forests. However, this person that writes this and produced the movie and so on, he's a U.S. citizen, so that's where he focused.
I like this. Does anyone want to buy some slightly used camping gear? I won't need it anymore.
And below it, anybody want my legs? I
Yeah,
think
I'm
I'm
not
leaving
going
my house.
out.
The stories that people tell on Reddit are like 10 times scarier than what's in the movie Missing 411. Now, let me give you a caveat. I hate horror movies. I've never watched them. I've never seen Friday the 13th. I've never seen the Jason stuff. I've never Nightmare on Elm Street. None of it. Not once. Not even for a few seconds. I only know what I see in commercials. All right. Cannot. I tried watching one or two horror movies when I was 12, 13, 14, and they freaked me out so bad I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I don't do good with suspense. Okay. These stories, the way people tell them, they are scary, but they're firsthand by the person who survived it. Okay. Yeah, my idea of camping is a Holiday Inn with no AC. Absolutely. Basically, with a view of the woods instead of the ocean. Absolutely. Glamping is more my style.
Yeah.
So, but you're reading the story from the person who survived it, so it's not as creepy, and it's also firsthand rather than a Hollywood glamorized version designed to wind you up and spit you out like a chunk of last week's beef jerky. All right, so this is actually people sharing their stories so that you might learn more about what to do and not do when you choose to go camping in the wilderness, what to look for, and be vigilant about and what's okay. It's very helpful. And besides that, apparently we have a bunch of really good writers too in Reddit, and it's in the no sleep. It's called a sub, and it's a subsection. It's called the no sleep section, and they do a good job of creeping each other out. But you start seeing patterns. Like I said, Iris sent me down a rabbit hole, big time,
Yeah.
for hours, and I started seeing patterns for what people were saying. This is international folklore as well as international modern experience, and it's fascinating.
So let me just for a moment, and I will put the. Well, this is the haunted. Wait a minute. Let me go back to the
There's
missing
two
411. There's
411
two
movies.
videos, or yeah, two.
Movies.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the comments. So if somebody wants to,
Click
um,
on it and see them. You can.
yeah,
They're
that's the first one, and then the second one will show up also. When you go to YouTube to see the first one. But
yeah.
basically, I've seen the first one. I haven't gone to the second one yet. But it calmly. I mean, it's like watching any kind of documentary where they're talking about and it's all in national parks where the like there's the one of the first families they talk about. They focus in on this family. They had gone camping, and the road to the campground is only one way into the campground. It's the same road in or out. And
12
once
miles.
the pavement ends on it, you've still got several miles to go, and it's rocky, bumpy. You can't do more than say 15 miles an hour on this road.
There's no quick getaway.
There's no quick getaway. There's nothing else on that road. And you get to the very end, and there's just a little camping area. There's a couple picnic tables and a grill and your flat area.
In
And
your
there's
little river.
trees and a little stream, and it's pretty kind of steep going to the stream. And it was a woman, her husband, their toddler, who's about three, almost three, and her grandfather and a friend of her grandfather's.
a, a middle-aged guy.
Yeah. And so they're camping, and the mom, dad, and kid go into town to pick up a couple things. When they come back, um, the grandfather and friend had caught some fish, and so the parents were asking, oh, where'd you catch them? Show us your fishing spots on the stream. So grandpa's still sitting there. Guy takes mom and dad, and the kid starts to follow, and mom says, no, stay with
Up
grandpa.
to the stream. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the kid goes back and he's with grandpa. And
Who has
it,
mental issues?
yeah, grandpa has, yeah. And I mean, and there's deliberation about, what happened, but basically the parents felt like they were gone for maybe 10 minutes. And when they come back, where's the kid? Grandpa says, I don't know. He was just here. And they're looking for him. They call the police. People, and they had to go down the road to make the call because service
The
was rough
signal
out
was,
there.
yeah, that's how
And
far out they
so
were.
they end up, calling a full on search, hundreds of people looking for this kid, never found him.
Not
And
not one trace.
no
Not
trace
no
whatsoever.
clothes, no clothes, no blood, no footprints, no animal tracks, nothing.
Nothing. And they did another one, and then they went to another case that wasn't too far from that one, but it was in another national park. And the kid was that the one he was autistic? That one got me because
Hmm.
dad stopped at an overlook. They talked to some people. People saw them there. The
Yeah.
kid went across the street because they're overlooking this beautiful lake.
The kid walked off from his dad.
He
Yeah,
walked off. He walked across the street. Kind of imagine you're on the Blue Ridge Parkway if you know what I'm talking about. 2-lane road. You've got a view on one side. The other side is steep mountain. Okay,
right.
and the kid goes over and
Yeah,
starts climbing up a little bit.
starts climbing up.
Dad calls him and says, "Come on back." And the kid, he's on the autism spectrum. He just kind of laughs and keeps going, and he got just over the ridge. So dad goes after him, and he's gone completely. And
The kid was about what, 8 years old?
8 years old,
Yeah,
and they couldn't find him anywhere.
no clothing, no tracks, no blood, no nothing.
And then another kid, the toddler, was it the toddler? No, it was another man who had like a 3 or 4 year old that they took him. He let his daughter who was older and then the son who was younger go on a little hike with some friends.
Hmm.
When adults were with them,
Yeah,
and they get on this trail, and the little boy's running ahead, and he got
he's
just out of
3.
sight.
He was
Yeah,
3.
he was
And
3.
he lived there, so the parents felt comfortable letting him go play with friends on those trails because
Right.
his dad was a caretaker of that resort,
Yes.
mountain resort. Yeah, so they felt comfortable letting a 3-year-old go with friends.
And
Yeah.
so the friend said the kid got ahead of him. The kid saw two fishermen, or the fisherman saw him. And the kid said, "Do you think there's any bears out here?" And the fisherman said, "Well, there could be." Kind of talked to him, but didn't really do anything. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the kid, the kid disappears, just poof. And it was like 3 years later, some men were hiking on this very extremely rocky, uh, uphill terrain. Very, very, it's like a
It's,
slate type
it's very
rocky.
sharp and it's called scree. If you want to look
Yeah,
that up,
that's what it is.
SCREE, and it's all broken shale, sharp edges. It's like walking on glass. You
And
don't, and it's
they were
loose.
climbing,
You don't want to climb up there.
and this area was miles out of the way from where the kid disappeared.
Right.
And they found a tennis shoe in pristine condition in the middle of these rocks.
Not a tennis shoe that had been outside in the wilderness for 3 months, but
3 years.
3 years. Sorry, 3 years. They showed pictures of it. It was completely clean and pristine. took a
No scrapes, no nothing.
no nothing
And they did some more searching. They found a
in the area.
yeah, when they called searchers. They called the cops or whatever, the sheriff comes and look. Ranger, Ranger Rob, whoever. They come and they do some more searching. They found in the same area a child's skull. They found a shirt that
It
did
was
not
his
have
jacket.
it had not been
It was
it had
in
been
one piece.
removed. It had not, like, if it was a mountain lion would have, they usually go for the gut.
Would have ripped it open.
It would have ripped it open. But there was no tears, no animal hairs, no sign of
Saliva,
trauma,
no blood.
nothing on this shirt. The
They show it to you.
pants,
They show you the shirt. Yeah.
yeah, and the pants were turned inside out, and they were kind of messed up, but it was because rodents and birds had picked at it to take
For
pieces
nesting.
for nesting.
Hmm.
It was not ripped, it was just pecked at. No fur, other marks,
No body,
DNA, nothing
nothing.
on both of those. So, but they found and like I said, the skull, shirt, top, and a pristine tennis shoe
Miles and miles away.
away.
There's
So
no way a
how would a
3-year-old could go
toddler
that
get
far.
from point A to point B up this horrible hill?
Of broken rock and shale. Yeah.
So
A
that's
three,
kind of what this is.
a
It
two and a
goes
half
on and
year
on,
old
and it's
couldn't do
hard.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I think we both got out of this was the the parks system will, from the comments that I've read and kind of the way they behaved on the video and stuff like that, if you ask them, if when media goes in and says, y'all have a record of who all's been missing from this area, they will flat say no. In reality, they do have records, but they say if you found out, you would never go to a national park again. They keep it under wraps. They are sworn to secrecy.
By the U.S. Department of Interior.
And tell us about that,
Ta-da!
Margot.
You really want to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, wait a minute. Angela asks, the forest worker wrote the books,
The
and the movies are based on the writings, and then they did like documentary with the movies, and it's called Missing 411.
411. Both the book and the movie are called the same thing, Angela. Missing 411.
Okay.
And the author is, if you want to put his name up, Paul Paulides, Paulides. David Paulides. Looks like the men's name Paul, Paul, and then
Yeah,
IDS
if you go to the link that I sent or that I
in the
posted
chat.
in the chat,
In the chat.
it came up on YouTube and on our Eyes of Indigo page. It should be, either way you should be able
You
to
can
see.
click through.
And it's in the description, his name and all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Once he put it on Reddit, there's 2 movies, and we're talking about the first one called Missing 411, which focuses on children. He went on and did a second movie that's called Missing 411, The Hunted, and it features hunters and professional outdoorsmen and women who encountered this stuff or became missing from these national parks. Some of them survived and some of them did not. And he interviews the ones that did survive. They tell their story and they tell a whole lot more. Let's just go ahead and do a little bit of reveal here. One of them has extensive audio footage of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and they have the guy that talks about it, him and all of his buddies and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandparents have a hunting cabin in the middle of nowhere in Sonora, California, and it's private. So they go there. They have an encampment that's made out of tree trunks. It's a makeshift shed that has a wood stove in it. They can tie themselves in at night at dusk and bolt the door. They can use a tree trunk and they tie themselves in. And they turned, and this has been happening since the 70s, and they turn on their recorders and you can hear, they play it during the movie. You can hear the Sasquatch talking to each other and talking to them because, as typical young men and women that go out in the woods, they take a little booze, they get drunk, and they start whooping and whooping back at them. And they start imitating them. You can hear them. You can hear the difference between a Sasquatch and a human really well, but they could imitate him. So they would woo, woo, woo back at him, and the Sasquatch would do it back. And then they started getting creeped out because the Sasquatch were getting really close, and they stopped. And I swear to God, this is going to sound funny, but some of those Sasquatch have a French accent. They actually make noises that sound like words. Yeah. Sounds like an angry Frenchman, but it sounds like they're swearing in French, I guess, or Belgian or something, German. But you can hear when they get close, they actually start enunciating like humans do. Not just it's not like that. It's a language. They took those tapes to a professional linguist at some university, and he talks on camera about his analysis of what he heard. It's mind-blowing. I don't want to ruin it for you. Go hear it. Missing 411, The Hunted. And he talks about what those sounds were and his evaluation of what they mean and how they were made and the type of animal that would have to be to make those sounds under those conditions back in 1970, which means the recording is even harder to corrupt than it would be now. And so on and so on and so on. And they throw up his credentials and you see him talk. It's just really cool. They also talk about seeing UFOs. They talk about lights in the woods floating right, almost floating right past them in the campsite. There's a light that just went right across, and they do a reenactment. You get to see that. It's kind of cool. But the point is, everybody in this particular episode are professional outdoorsmen and outdoors women that know how to survive in the wild, that know what to look for, they know what to avoid, and yet these people are snatched and disappear. Why? Why are these? Your timing on that one was really good. These people are Army Rangers, former paratroopers. They're all veterans. They teach other people. They are outdoor survival instructors. Okay, and they are buff. But the ones that got snatched, not all of them. Some of them were now blind in one eye, had diabetes or a little bit deaf, senior citizens, stuff like that. Another one got hypothermia while he was by himself. And sometime after that, he was snatched, but people saw him in the distance on a remote farm. And what he did was bizarre. And so they have professionals come in and talk about trying to explain why would this professional outdoorsman do this, take off their shoes in the middle of winter, in the middle of the wilderness, set down his backpack and walk away from it and never come back. Go to an outcropping and drink a cup of tea overlooking a farm. He had been missing for 2 days. By then, he would have needed help. He sat on a rock overlooking a farmhouse, drinking tea, and left his thermos and cup right there. Yeah, that's how they knew it was his, because it was his stuff. This 15 miles away in 3 feet of snow with no shoes and hypothermia and carrying his hunting bow and all his hunting equipment. No, that's physically impossible. All right. Not while you're hypothermic, especially. So that's just, and guys, this is only one guy that I'm telling you about. He talks about 5 or 6 of them, and they're fascinating. They interview wives, they interview the local police and the sheriffs. They interview all kinds of federal investigators, private investigators, neighbors, babysitters for the children's. Holy cow, he does not leave anybody unturned. They show you letters, official letters that officials sent to them regarding their case instead of just telling you about it. It's really thorough for a documentary. But Iris, we wanted to talk about theories about why this happens, correct? The weirdness of it all.
Yeah, and okay, there's well, I want to say the obvious, but the obvious and the most ridiculous at the same time for what some people would think is aliens, or like you said, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Harry and the Hendersons, whatever.
Make friends with the BFs, yeah.
Yeah.
Smallfoot. That's Smallfoot's another movie, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then and yes, they're just like there's good and bad people, there's good and bad aliens. And and I'm at the point now where yes, there are aliens. To think out of the multiple universes that there are not other beings out there is just ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, we're the only ones, really.
Let me throw out some numbers just to clarify. In this galaxy alone, there are billions of stars. Around each star is anywhere from 1 or 2 to dozens of planets. So out of billions of stars, there's billions more planets, and that's just this one galaxy. Hubble telescope, even when it was at its lowest commission past its expiration point, found hundreds of thousands of galaxies, which each one of them has billions of stars equaling billions of more planets, found hundreds of thousands of galaxies in a one, relative to size and space, in a 1-inch patch of empty dark space in all of the Earth sky scope around the planet Earth. All right, so we're talking about beyond quadrillions of planets. No, there is no way we're alone. No, yeah, it's scientifically impossible.
So
logistically impossible.
Just like there's good and bad people. There's going to be good and bad aliens, for lack of a better word.
Well, we call them people and ETs.
Yeah.
ETs, extraterrestrials. Yeah.
Yeah. So
or beings.
They're that's one thing, and but some of this stuff is weird, even for a malevolent ET that might.
It's a little too creative for something that's going hunting, like a malevolent ET might. Okay, like the same way we hunt, deer and raccoon and squirrel and rabbit and fish and whatever. Squirrel. It's a fast one. Skunk. Yeah. Angela's right. That doesn't get old, man. That's really funny. It's just something about it. So there, so yeah, it's possible that it could be malevolent ETs and experimental stuff that was sanctioned by the U.S. government in 1945. But anyway.
Well, and that's another reason. We do know there's ETs because the government's finally fessed up. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Since the 40s, since before Roswell, actually. Roswell was the second big incident, not the first. So feel free to look all this up. It's out there. So it could be that. Now, if you start reading the Reddit comments, you'll find out that there they do say, yeah, some of this kind of sounds ET, and some of this kind of sounds Sasquatch. But when they start describing firsthand experience, people that survive it start describing what they actually experienced. Some of them experienced it as little kids. Some of them experienced it as adults. Some of them experienced it at both times in their lives. It's an ongoing thing because they live in those areas. The bigger, more common thread is there seems to be another type of being that exists in the wilderness, in every wilderness around the world, not just federal property, that is a shapeshifter, that understands human psyche, that can manipulate human emotions. It can tell if you're tired, if you're lonely, if you're wanting a romantic partner, if you're a man, seeking romance, or a woman seeking romance, if you're a compassionate person who's a rescuer. So you will respond to a baby crying in the woods, a woman screaming in the woods. If you're tired, you would go up and touch or lay down on this beautiful little cushy pad, pillow, bed configuration. Food, they will waft good food cooking smells at you. You're lonely, they'll start playing music near you, real music. You go follow it, and you don't come back. Your friends wonder where you went. The guys that explained all this stuff, they heard this, they watched their friends disappear, they watched it happen to themselves, they didn't follow it, and they thought it through. And this is more than just one person. For hours and hours, I read several accounts from people all over the world explaining some sort of shape-shifting thing that when it did show up, it looked like a fuzzy, cloudy black mass that was basically in the shape of a human. But children would describe it as, was he ever mean to you? No. But I didn't like that he didn't have eyes. Or they described him as the fuzzy man with no eyes. And he talks in a growly voice when he does talk. And he talks to children, especially the ones he kidnaps. But apparently there's a criteria for the children they kidnap. The ones that survive, they ask them, why did Fuzzy Man let you go, for an instance? And the kid said he told me that I wasn't the right type, so he had to let me go. Type for what? We don't know. We don't know. Also, some of the bodies that they find later, it still ties into this. Experienced outdoors people, or sometimes children, their bodies will show up miles and miles away. They'll show up months or a year later. Autopsy shows that they've only been dead for a day or two. Every time. So for some reason, they were alive all this time, and for some other reason, they were brought back to Earth. Almost every time when they came back and they were dead, their bodies were in a position that killed them, such as they had no clothes on in the middle of winter at night and died of hypothermia. Not trauma, not poisoning, not starvation, not wounds, not bleeding, because they did autopsies on them. They died from hypothermia because the body was found face down in a creek bed in the water. Or the little kid was found lying flat out on its back with no clothes on in the middle of an open field. And it had obviously only died 2 days before. Okay? So when they bring them back, they're not always careful about where they put them. And they die anyway upon return. So apparently, they do something.
My internet connection was coming and going, so
Yeah.
I missed a little bit. I apologize. But did you talk about the ranger that separated from a group and she had to get pee in the woods?
I hadn't told him about that one yet. You want me to tell that story?
Yeah, tell that one.
All right. you can read these stories on Reddit, and I'm condensing what they said. This lady was becoming a forest ranger. She had been in training for about 2 months. She was still a newbie. They were out on an exercise learning to scale a difficult cliff, how to rappel a difficult cliff. She stepped away to go pee in the woods by herself. And when she stood up and zipped her pants, she looked around and she could not remember why she was standing in the woods at all. She remembers this huge, and this is common, a really huge, loud humming sound that drowned out all other sound, like having tinnitus, like having ringing in the ears, which she didn't have before that. And the sound is everywhere all the time. And sometimes the pitch changes and sometimes it becomes words. That's real common, the really unusual mechanical woo all the time. Everything was silent. She couldn't hear any other birds and crickets and squirrel or whatever, that are out there. Everything else was quiet. She was in a tiny clearing by herself. She could not remember why she couldn't remember how to go back. That was the first thing. She stood up and said, crap, she only went like 20 yards. And she's like, how do I get back out of here? And the longer she stood there, in a matter of seconds, she then couldn't remember why she was even in the woods. And as the hours went by, she could not even remember who she was. But back up, her first thing was, okay, I have to survive. She was losing her memory. The sound thing was coming down. She was having a severe panic, danger, Will Robinson reaction. She knew she had to get out. So she started moving in a straight line and just pushed straight forward wherever she was facing, didn't care, and started barreling through wilderness by herself and kept walking. And she still felt the panic, and the sound would move around, but it basically stayed over her head. The panic in her kept building. And then this low, growly voice in her head said, you'll be okay if you just eat. Eat, eat, eat. You must eat. You will only be okay if you eat. And it kept saying that and kept saying that. She started believing it, of course. She was in an altered state. And she kept hiking through the woods, and she became hyper-focused and obsessed with, I have got to find food. And eventually she realized she would eat anything that would come near her if it would. Now, this was winter time in the snow, so not a lot of living things around. So she kept moving through the wilderness, and all she could think about was, I've got to find food. I'm in danger. I'm going to die if I don't find food. I'm in danger. She still didn't know who the hell she was or why she was out in the middle of the mountains. After a while, all she cared about was eating. Okay. Eventually, a fellow ranger came walking towards her on a road. And he saw her and he screamed, he yelled out at her, oh my God, what are you doing here? Are you okay? And he was several yards away. And she saw him, and her first instinct was to reach in her belt and take out a knife. Because in her head, all she could think about is, I have to eat. Yes, I'm saying what you think I'm saying. All right. The guy saw her pull out the knife, and he stopped, and he realized, okay, she's having a psychotic episode. They're trained to handle that. And he stopped and he put his hands up and he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay. Put away the knife. You're okay now. You're safe. And he stayed where he was. And when she heard him say all that, for some reason that snapped her back, and all her memories came back all at once. And she remembered who she was, and she remembered what she was doing, and she realized what the audacity of, she was going to eat the guy with the knife. And she closed the knife up and put it away and ran over to him and said, oh my God, Bob, Jim, Rick, whatever. Dude, I've been lost out here. I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's okay. Are you all right? Are you all right? And she said, well, I think I am. How long have I been gone? 20, 30 minutes? I just went to the bathroom. And he went, You've been gone for 2 days. We've been looking for you for 2 days. And she was like, are you sure? It's only been 30 minutes or so, hadn't it? And he said, no, you've been gone for 2 days. And he wrapped her up and took her back to the ranger station. And they took her to the hospital and they diagnosed her as having fugue, Fugue, fugue. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it's a delirious state of mind. And they couldn't explain what happened to her, but she remembered everything. And she loved the outdoors so much. She still is a ranger even today, years later. And she said, people pick on me because I won't go anywhere by myself. And I tell them, I don't care. You can either come listen to me pee for 10 minutes, or you can come look for me in the woods in the freezing cold for 2 days. Now, think about it, guys. You're so freaked out that you're walking through the wilderness by yourself day and night, nonstop in the snow, and you don't realize it for 2 days. You think it's been 30 minutes. That's a lot. Okay. Reel it in and bring it back to what I was saying. These creatures that people are speculating can manipulate human perception of reality that much. I think this ties into there are a lot of things on this world that are supernatural that we're not allowed to know about. I want to give you a high five. There's a lot of shit that we don't know about that's classified as superstition and folklore and fairy tale, because there's a lot on this planet that's more than humans, mammals, insects, birds, fish, amoebas, microscopic plasma or whatever. I think there's other things.
Well, what's interesting is even in when you hear about the rainforests and stuff, one of the arguments about preserving the rainforests is because so much of the rainforests have not been explored, have not been touched by humans. And almost every time anybody goes a little bit deeper, they find new species. They've estimated how many species of animals that are
Millions
out
of
there
them
that we don't
that we
know
don't know
about,
about.
and
And
plants
and and those are the species they'll tell you about.
yeah, other kinds of
Yeah.
birds and frogs and things like that. But
Yeah,
when
X-Files. Yeah, Angela Kreitzer said, yeah, X-Files tells you about it. She
yeah,
mentioned the TV show Supernatural will tell you about this stuff as well.
yeah, and then
The
well,
good,
even think about what was it, the Medicine Man that Sean Connery was in, where he was in the rainforest and was looking for a cure for cancer.
yeah,
And they found like a rare plant. And I mean, even for the more somebody who wants more stable proof, or whatever, even
mainstream
that,
proof, right?
yeah, even that's more practical of what they have, what could potentially be found. But then, like you said, Supernatural did a thing on these weird things in the woods that would
Many
collect people.
times. Yeah, a lot of shows like that have. Sometimes I want to share this analogy with you. Sometimes people in private conversations, they want to talk about that with me. They want to talk about, yeah, so much of the ocean. Thank you, because that's where I'm going. People ask me questions like, is there really such thing as fairies and mermaids and Bigfoot and chupacabra and goat man and things like that? Exactly. There you go. Ow! So, and the answer is yes. And here's the logistical proof of that I use in conversation. Among species on planets, let's say dogs. Do you see all the types of dogs there are? There are all kinds of domestic dogs, but there's also other types of dogs like wolves, coyotes, and so on. Jackals, dingoes, on and on and
Dingo
on.
ate my
They're all
baby.
rare, but yes, they do.
But it did happen.
It does.
I thought that
Yeah, it
woman
does
was a
happen.
liar, and it really did
No,
happen.
no, they do. They do. They hunt. They're opportunists. So there's all types of dogs. Let's look at birds. We've got hummingbirds. We've got ostriches. We've got chickens. We've got peacocks. We've got songbirds galore. You've got doves, pigeons, whatever. All types of birds. Ostrich, hummingbird, all types. Trees. You've got willows. You've got oaks. You've got ash. You've got pines.
Sequoias.
Oh God, you got sequoias. Yeah, you've got millions and millions of types of trees out there. So there is a variety of species on this planet for every species. Insects alone are the most numerous animal of all on the whole planet, and the most variety. And they're still discovering. You tell me why there is only 2 beings on this planet that have humanoid type DNA: chimpanzees and humans. Really? There's your proof that Sasquatch exists, mermaids exist, humanoids, besides Homo sapiens, exist. What is it? Homo aquaticus. Homo Sasquatchus. I don't know. Sasquatchius. But
Humio Harrier.
Homo. Homeo, largipod.
Yeah.
Pod being a foot. So anyway, just in logistical, just like, by deduction, we can figure out we're not the only intelligent planet here. By deduction, there's no way that Homo sapiens are the only humans on this planet. And if you want to talk about Hollow Earth, then yeah, you're going to find out about even more humanoids than just mermaids and Sasquatch and fairies and trolls and all those. Yeah, you find out even more. Yeah, you can go really rabbit hole really deep on this subject. I like to use that one as one example of, yeah, they're here with us, and they always have been. Not to say that there aren't charlatans out there that exploit it,
Yeah.
and do make it into crazy stories. But that makes me think, on other planets, do people make up people on other planets, do they make up fairy tales about humans? Just like we have fairy tales about ETs. I wonder if they have fairy tales about the humans.
I could just see a story. There is this planet where people live, and
Obliviously.
they're the only ones.
They breathe through these things called noses. And they only communicate through their mouths and sometimes their hands. They don't communicate telepathically like we do. And they seem to only hear through these holes. They got 2 of them, one on each side. And some of them eat animals and some of them don't. By the way, eating animals is weird in most other planet cultures. The fact that we eat animals is considered very strange.
In other planet cultures, not our planet cultures. Yeah.
Right. Other planet cultures. Yeah. Have I told you guys from listening to all this excellent research about alternative information and so on over the past 2 years? Have I ever told you guys what the #1 export off of the planet Earth is?
Yes, I remember.
Do you remember what it is?
Say beer.
It. Beer. If you want good booze, hang a rag, third rock from the sun.
I want a beer. Ah!
Hit the Northern Hemisphere, either the one called North America or the one called Germany in Europe. That's where the good stuff is.
Yep.
Here, there is other illegal #1 exports. There you go. Rock it, Angela. There are illegal exports off the planet Earth that are just as popular, but that's the #1 popular one. Or legal. That's the #1 legal export. So, yeah, interesting times. Guys, remember this conversation 20 years from now. This is 2021. Remember this in 2041? That weird little show called Eyes of Indigo with Iris and Margot. They mentioned this crazy stuff back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
Did you tell them
And we're
about the
happy to.
stairs?
So, say again.
Tell about the stairs.
Oh, one last thing. Have you guys heard about staircases in the middle of the woods? Please feel free to comment. Along the way, Deborah said, how did they get the fake IDs to get beer? Any
They have
beer
somebody
ain't
buy it
ruined.
for 'em.
They have the Grays go buy it for them.
No, that's what the Men in Black do.
They're the ones carding for it. That's so sad. Here of all things, I make a face. You're just thinking about the stuff I'm like. Well, Angela, that should tell you there's something about beer that you're missing, that you haven't discovered yet. Cool. One more cool thing to discover. You got it. Good beer. You got to know where it is. And Angela says, yes, she knows about stairs. Angela, feel free to type a little bit you know about stairs in the middle of nowhere. I think I mentioned it just a few minutes ago, but outside of that, in other words, I'm asking, have you seen that, or do you know somebody who has seen mysterious stairs in the middle of nowhere? Now, what we're talking about is sometimes the stairs are going down, sometimes the stairs are going up. They can be made out of wood. Yeah. And some people think it is. Most people think that it is a interdimensional wormhole type thing. That it's probably an illegal access to another dimension. If you read the Reddit stuff, there are other forest rangers, U.S. Forest Ranger Service, that are writing stories on there. It's not just civilians. It is a universal no-no in the U.S. Forestry Service to talk about mysterious stairs appearing out of nowhere. Yes, people come across them in the middle of the woods while hiking. Yes. Angela, do your friends know what to do when they see stairs? Because there seems to be a hard line recommendation about what to do when you see the stairs. Yep, sometimes doors and sometimes doors is where. Well, yep. It seems to be the beings that are creating these stairs. The stairs, by the way, do appear suddenly and disappear suddenly. The beings that are putting them there, they like to give you objects that you are familiar with so that you're more likely to approach them and try to interact with it. Because once you do, now you're playing ball in their field, in their game. You're playing their game in their front. Jacob's Ladder, yes, I'm sure that's a reference to it. I've heard another story that Jacob's Ladder was actually an ascension ray into a UFO. It was a transporter beam like Star Trek. And it was shaped, had a zigzag in it. So the people at the time wrote it down as Jacob's Ladder because Jacob was the first one to go up it.
Yep, Scotty.
Yep, that's what they did in the Bible. That's what it was. Yes, sense of familiarity, and then boom, is what Angela Nix wrote. Yes. The people in the Reddit talked about some people they called themselves stupid. They actually were too drunk or too young or too full of piss and vinegar or too high to think about what they were doing. And they actually walked up the stairs and back down sometimes. And half of them, nothing happened. The other half, shit happened. And it was ugly. And people died. People died.
God, yeah.
Some people died. Some people got dismembered. Some people disappeared into thin air and never came back. Another interpretation was there is a Native American guy on that thread who's very authentic. When you read his stuff, you realize he knows what he's talking about. He says, if you are stupid enough to go mess with those stairs, or as Angela said, the door, if you're stupid enough to go do that, because people were kidding. For science, let's go do this for science. No, he said, if you do that, here's 3 or 4 things. Tell somebody what you're going to do. Have somebody watch from a distance for you to go up and out, and warn them you may not be the same person who comes back out. Give me that scream, Iris. We need that one. Yeah.
I was too shocked to even think about it.
Yeah. Whoever goes up those stairs is not always the same person that comes down. You may look the same. It's so check it out. I mean, it will literally take you 4 or 5 hours to read all the good stories on Reddit. It's on the no sleep sub thing. There's good writers though. It's fascinating. And I'm a picky reader because I don't have time. Guys, I'm supposed to be working. I'm supposed to be doing wedding photography. I'm supposed to be editing pictures to get them back to brides. And I am. I'm right on my deadline. But these stories are firsthand. They're so well written, and people do a pretty good job of substantiating, and other people ask them questions about, oh yeah, well then what about this? And they answer it. And the discussions are very coherent and very intelligent. And you're like, wow, this is a serious Easter egg in life that we Hi guys, I don't know what happened to Iris. Sorry. But if you can hear me, please feel free to enjoy Missing 411. Yep, I'm back. Hopefully you can see me in a second. Please go see Missing 411. Thank you for joining us tonight. Guys, the internet is, you're still here. The internet is definitely bouncing us in and out all over the place. Thank you. Good night. We'll see you next week. Feel free to enjoy the shows and the movies we referenced tonight. God bless. Bye. We love you.
Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/EyesOfIndigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears, all rights reserved.